10 people is a pretty conservative
I was just saying,
estimate.
for people that have never touched the game, right? As we are going into the game, by the way here, match 87. It's today and tomorrow, and that's the end of the regular season. We're already at the end of summer. And it's been a journey. It's been really cool to watch all these teams develop over the course of the summer. And now we're down to 2 days left, and we still have no idea who's going to be first, third, sixth. Could be anyone. I mean, if Freak a win later, they can get as high as fourth. So.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely have some potential tiebreakers as well, which I think we'll wait until this series is over to really get into the details of it, because this will change a lot. I'm really curious to see how Liv Sandbox recover from that KT loss, because there's two ways of looking at it, as you kind of alluded to earlier. One way is this is the loss that makes you realize some of the weaknesses you have, shore up some of the disadvantages you might have had going into playoffs. If you had just won that series without learning anything, it might have actually been a bigger detriment. But on the other hand, if that loss really shakes you up mentality-wise, it's the one that breaks the winning streak and you start to doubt yourself. It could also be something that starts the catalyst for Liv Sandbox falling back and regressing to where we saw them at the end of spring season, where they choked in that match that mattered most. They're already guaranteed playoffs this time around, but this match is so important. Yep. And it is not going to guarantee them top 2, by the way, even if they win it, but it makes their chances a lot better.
Yeah, they have to win to have a chance.
Yes.
That's kind of the story for both of these teams. Dom1 will be settled in top 2, first or second, but they still make it onto that second part of playoffs, whereas Liv Sandbox need a bunch of other things to happen. Some trading here. Be interesting to see Beryl back on the Kench. Obviously, Tom Kench nowadays, you have some easy ways to really get in the face of your opponent with that Abyssal Dive. And obviously a bit less global range in terms of his old Abyssal Voyage ultimate, stuff like that. But Beryl, definitely a guy that's been kind of flying off the handle at times. I'll be curious to see how he handles the Abyssal Dive.
Yeah, that's the one thing that has been a liability for Dom1 Kia since, you know, a lot of people would argue playoffs last season. I think most people would zoom in mostly on MSI. And even though we've seen a big return to form for everyone on Dom1 Kia, Beryl included, it feels like he still has a little bit of catching up to do in terms of some of our top supports. Like, we're doing MVP votes this week, almost all of us, and there's a lot of discussion about who's going to be, you know, all-pro for support. And Beryl's not in most people's conversation right now for top supports when you're in an extremely competitive support region where you have players like Keria, you have players like Effort, right, and Kellen. It's time to show up here big time, I think, as Beryl, and playing the Kench is one of his favorites. See how he does.
Yeah. Will be cool to see. Krako here, just waiting for the Scuttle Crab up on the top side. And not sure if they know exactly where this Lee Sin could be. The Diana just full clearing at the moment. Might hang around down towards the bottom side of the river and look for that bottom scuttle. Get some more information on where the Lee Sin could be.
Yep. Ping goes down on that scuttle there on the bottom side. As you know, with Twisted Fate versus Rise, neither of these champions get a lot of kill pressure at level 6. A lot of mid laners do with their ultimate. Neither of these, in fact, are great in terms of the laning matchup. But both of them get a big amount of macro rotation power that can make them deadly elsewhere. So something to look out for there. As there's a Diana and Lee Sin, and before 6, Lee Sin is going to have a lot more power there. And you can see that Showmaker is really respecting this early game. And let's not forget that, like you said, once the Rapid Fire Cannon comes online, this Twisted Fate is going to do a ton for setup and team fights. But before that, when Everfrost comes in, he's going to be super strong on those fights around objectives. That's a big item spike for him and for Liv Sandbox's comp in general to watch out for. Root against the Camila, the Diana can really help you blow up a single target with all the bursts they have, the follow-up stuns they have.
Yeah. It's been really cool to see TF. I don't want to say develop because, I mean, the champion's basically as old as time.
Yeah.
But it's still been cool to see. You know, players like Faker's been the one that we've been really pointing out because he's a huge TF player. A guy that uses the utility that TF offers to basically the top of his potential from that champion. It's been really cool to see. And the current build right now for TF is it's pretty interesting because obviously you get some AP and AD, but it's not about those stats. It's really about your pick potential, and it's all about that for TF on 1 and 2 items.
It's crazy because TF as a champion kind of has that built into his kit, but when you add the Everfrost to it, it just really feels unfair. It feels oppressive sometimes as certain champions when he Destiny Gates in, roots you, then stuns you, then the champion that he's ganking for follow-up stuns you, and you're just dead. So it's very scary to deal with. And a player like Faker, who was in his younger years much more known for his mechanics, now a lot known for his macro play, is going to abuse that to a great extent. And I think Fate is going to do the same here. That's the idea with this draft. A lot of posturing around this Drake, but neither team having enough priority to actually commit.
And look at this, Khan, interesting spot, not able to get knocked off of that one. Kroko also misses the Q, so hookshot, easy peasy escape here for Khan.
Yeah, it's really hard to gank a Camille at this stage without your level 6 as the Lee Sin because you don't have the kick potential there. The hookshot makes it really easy for Khan to escape without using flash. So that was really a bit of a reach there from Kroko, but again, these types of plays, if you do end up overextending as the Camille, maybe you get a kill and things can really snowball from there. And the, trade-off is not that much for Kroko. In fact, doesn't waste almost any time, goes straight back to his Krugs, and he'll hit 6 in just a moment.
Yeah. Both Barrel and Effort went on the roam there, we saw about a minute ago. And you take a look at the vision from Live Sandbox south of the mid lane. There are 2 control wards there. One of them set up by Effort, and one of them must have been Fate, I suppose. And Barrel has not placed his 2 control wards just yet, kind of just holding on to that. But Damwon really don't have much vision at all. They were able to get Showmaker and Canyon to put down a couple of their control wards up towards the top side of the river, which will be useful for when the Rift Herald spawns. But right now, yep, here's that kick you were talking about, and it's straight into the arms of the Jace, and Khan with the flash, but he's not able to get close enough. And that will be first blood given over to the Lee Sin.
Very well played here from Kroko. The first time you show up, you don't end up having that kill potential because you don't have 6. You go and get 6 off the Krugs. You show up the second time, and you have a false sense of security sometimes as a top laner in this moment when a failed gank happens just moments before you do step up into lane. They had no vision. He had no control wards there. No control over there's no wards in general over the brush. So Kroko was able to hide and get that kick from behind, and Khan just not able to react quickly enough there. And once you're stuck on the other side of the river, like you said, you can't get close enough to flash the wall, and it's just a big disaster. So a lot of gold going over to this Lee Sin, but also Jace getting a huge amount of gold too. And that's really important heading into this mid-game. So very impactful plays here from Kroko. Slow and steady wins the race there.
Yeah, and you consider the fact that they just got a kill on the top side. And a lot of the vision control from Damwon is very defensive. Still, Canyon just going to run at this Rift Herald. He says, okay, Kroko must be going for a back here. And everybody on the side of Damwon Kia commits to the top side of the map to try to get this objective. And Live Sandbox say, sure, go ahead and take it. So you might think that after getting that kill on the top side, it should have been Live Sandbox's objective. But they say, let's get Prince, 1.5 plates.
Yeah, the amount of gold you're going to lose, opportunity cost-wise here from losing this Herald is not that great for Live Sandbox when you consider that they're, and by that I mean that what they lose is not that much, because they're going to get a plate down here on the bottom side. They end up stealing the red buff away. They got a lot of vision control on this Drake, and even though Damwon and Kia tried to group to fight around Drake, even though Canyon wasn't there, Live Sandbox were able to deny them that. Still maintain vision control there on the bottom side of the blue jungle. And they're in a really nice spot to actually start the Drake up now themselves, in fact. And Damwon and Kia, if you look at the gold graph at the moment, 1,400 gold behind, that Rift Herald isn't going to shore up all that difference. So Live Sandbox really playing this early game quite well around this Kalista bot.
Take a look at this. Effort.
Once again,
he's coming up to the top side, and he's reading this play. I mean, Canyon, he hasn't done anything all game, and look at this. Finally, they read the play, and now Effort's here, but is it enough on time? He flashes in, but it's still not able to land the stun, and Summit will still go down. It does not matter. Fate is not able to follow up either, so the gank is successful from Canyon, and he's not going to drop the Rift Herald.
Yeah, and you have to be really careful as coming in there as Fate. The wave is crashing into his turret, so he has to deal with that. But if he goes ahead and commits in, he's going to lose a lot more than necessarily minions if he gets picked in the attempt, because the amount of damage there on the top side of the map is so quick and so bursty that even with just a Gragas up there, you're not going to feel safe to actually maybe trade a kill back. So you hold on to your ultimate here as Fate. You can't really save them. As you see on the mini-map here, like, when this happens at first, it's really just Summit, actually, who overextends and gets caught here. And on the mini-map, the Rise wave is pushed. He's actually got priority, so it's not really easy for Fate to come up here. And Summit felt safe enough with Ever being nearby that he was going to be able to push up like that, but gets punished super hard. And suddenly, it's a much more even game than it was just moments ago.
Yeah. And Fate, of course, with the Unsealed Spellbook, he has Ignite up right now, so probably did not have Teleport, so there wasn't going to be a response in that manner either.
Yeah, he matched with Showmaker, I believe, so it should be about, if you're looking for his cooldown, it's about where Showmaker's is right now. So not up just yet, not up at that moment.
Yeah. And Canyon, you know, he gets that big gank off, he picks up a kill. He's been pretty much just farming the entire game. Krako as well, I mean, he did go for that one or two attempts, I should say, up on the top side going for the kill, but he has been keeping up very nicely on the Lee Sin, which is good to see. Canyon, though, looking to explode into the mid game here with a couple of big ganks and the Rift Herald, but you see that Krako's up here on the top side.
Wants to make a play, but he's seen, so this is going to be very difficult to pull off. No flash for Khan, however.
Still thinking about it, the hook shot onto Summit. And little plays like that, you know, you don't have to get the kill, but still it is Jace who can fire a couple of shots and pick up a play.
And the pressure that is, you know, removed from the bottom side of the map by Krako there, like, as Dom1Kia, you're like, well, I could just drop this Herald down here now for the Aphelios. That's where I want most of my gold to go at the moment. And Khan can hold this this turret down. Yeah, they're going to get an extra plate here, but a lot of gold goes over very freely here now to the Aphelios, who otherwise wouldn't have, in this matchup, a lot of opportunity to get those plates necessarily. So that's pretty nice for Dom1Kia.
It's a very interesting response. You know, it's not something you see all the time, but it's basically saying, okay, we're going to give up the bottom side, and we're just going to trade turrets. And as you mentioned, it's about where that gold goes. As we're having Beryl go in there, now 4 members of Dom1, rather, are thinking about diving the bottom side. They will back off on that as the pick on the top. They're going for Khan, and he survived for a very long time, but he will not anymore, as they're able to dive deep enough, and Khan with no flash had no escape and way to get out.
Yeah, and what Live Sandbox are trying to accomplish with this is they're saying it's okay for Callista to be camped here. She might die, in fact. Teleport and Twisted Fate coming in.
Yeah, everybody's down on the bottom side. We're not looking for any deaths, and Ghost is in a ton of trouble, and the cask is perfect. No Devour for you, because the Abyssal Dive is pretty funny, but oh, he's actually even going to flash. He might actually get out of here now, as the Jace is trying to follow up, and they're just going to give up on that. So Beryl with the great escape, but can't say the same about his AD carry, and they didn't even get the bottom turret.
No, they didn't get the turret here, and this is pretty massive because if you look at the top side of the map, Krako shoving a wave in. Khan didn't really have the opportunity to follow teleport there. It was not an option. He was dead. So as you can see right now, like, this is happening on the top side. He ends up going down. And then the follow-up that's been set up in the long con game here, the long con play for Live Sandbox, is to be able to defend the bottom side because they don't commit resources here other than Krako's farm by staying so long. It's really easy to respond, actually, as Twisted Fate here when you know you have the teleport advantage because you have total control of the top side. Like, right now, Khan is dead. So you know you have that lead, and Khan can't match this, so you have a numbers advantage. And what's so massive about this is not only do they have this really strong bot side that is great at collapsing, but they've also really limited Camille so much in this game, so her split pushing power is not going to be a threat. It's not going to come online until much later in this game, which is so critical because it's a huge part of Dom1Kia's late game win condition.
Yeah, I mean, really the only one that was getting nicely fed on the side of Dom1 was the Diana with just free farming and then the kill. I mean, of course, the Aphelios gets a couple of plates, but they were not looking for that much more. And as you mentioned, it really did just come down to the teleport advantage, the TF able to get there faster as well, and that has to be a call from Dom1 to say, we need to back. We can't stick around here. Like, they called our bluff. They got a kill on the top side. Like, we can't go for this one. And it's Live Sandbox playing the same game they have all towards the end of summer, and part of where their success comes from. Summit and Krako once again joining teams as now we're engaging down on the bottom side. The Moonlight Vigil gets a bunch of damage on the Prince here as the TP. Showmaker just flashes away, gets into a better position, and he is in a good position. 4-on-4 now. Kick doesn't do much. And Krako getting rooted down means he'll just have to run away.
But this is the trade-off, right? You know, Summit's getting a lot of pushing power done on the top side of the map. It's starting to threaten that inner turret, and you've got to do more than this as Damwon Kia to make it worth it. You got to at least get the turret.
Yeah. Like,
there's no minions here.
It's everything for this turret right now. And it's not even first turret. There's no more plates.
It's just not worth it.
They're not even taking the Drake.
No.
They don't even feel safe enough to do that.
This is really starting to be a macro advantage for Live Sandbox, like in terms of how they're playing this game out. And you have to respect that Twisted Fate has this power at this stage of the game. Between Destiny and his teleport that he had available in the last attempt, you know, you do end up getting a lot of value here as Live Sandbox because Damwon Kia, as you mentioned, don't get the Drake, aren't even going to be able to control this Rift Herald. And this is very T1-esque, actually, what Live Sandbox are doing. Extremely decisive. Push for top turret, then wrap around defensively on the bottom side. Fate's playing this like Faker would in a composition like this. Right now, you know, a lot of people are putting T1's macro and turret control at some of the best here in the LCK. And Live Sandbox, I think, emulating a lot of T1's success. Damwon Kia are so desperate to make sure the Aphelios gets money so that he can compete because the Camille's already, I don't want to say a lost cause, but definitely so far behind that you're not thinking of that as your primary win condition right now. Your split pushing power isn't going to be as strong, and you're already falling behind on Drake. So Live Sandbox are about as good of a position as you could ever hope to be right now in this game.
Yeah, this is the kind of lead that they really wanted to get as well. You talked about it in the draft. You don't want to let Aphelios, Ryze, Diana, and Camille scale, right? You just list every single person there and you're not happy. As Barrow, he's not happy. Everybody's ganging up on him, and he was just trying to get vision. He had Aphelios there. It was just the two of them. They were just trying to poke their heads in, and then all of a sudden, the blind Lee Sin comes in and is able to pick him off, and that's another big kill for Krako.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, as Beryl here, it's a bit of a catch-22 problem because if you don't gain any sort of vision here, how many people are doing the Drake? You know they're doing the Drake, but how many people are there? How many bodies are on that? How many are going to maybe push bottom and try to grab that turret? Like, you want to get some sort of information. And if they're going to set up a trap as well, you know, you want to have a little bit more advanced warning. Maybe if they aren't on the Drake, like if it's some weird, crazy scenario where you catch Live Sandbox at a weird timing, you could look for something. So there's a million reasons why Barrow wants to get that vision, but he doesn't respect the fact that it's a Lee Sin comp that could just kick it back and he could die instantly. And so as a result, he gets punished.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time, right? We've had a lot of these moments for Barrow this season where he's just greedy in terms of setting up initiation, setting up provision, and he gets punished once again.
Yeah. It's like the question of, is our team even going to be willing to try to group for that objective, right? And if they're not, you can't just go in there alone and try to get vision. And Aphelios isn't going to help you, of course, so. It was a nice pick from Krako, but you got to be sure about some of your decisions here as Summit runs very far up, as Showmaker will actually stay. Yeah, this is going to turn into a 3-on-2 very quickly. Effort is around. The root is there for long, and you're never getting Array from Ryze with the Everfrost. As he'll lock you down into the stun. No chance for Summit to flash that one.
Yeah, that was a really nice call from Damwon Kia, knowing that, you know, there's a very good chance that Effort's rotating up, but he doesn't show himself for so long that you feel pretty confident you can actually get that burst through, get that pick on the Summit, which is pretty massive because they also get a turret with this. Unfortunately, no objective to take with this advantage they have, but it's a lot of money.
Look at this play. Okay. Like it from Damwon. You get the Moonlight Vigil with the Gravitum to set that one up, and then Realm Warp for the follow-up. No flash for Prince as well. It was about 10 seconds away, so he couldn't even try to flash away from the Realm Warp. Even then, probably was going down. Yeah,
it's a really nice set play here from Damwon Kia, and suddenly they're terrorizing the map. They make the play topside. Showmaker decides to stay here. Summit goes down. And Everfrost, again, just one of those extremely valuable tools. It's blocking somebody up, bursting them down. Then you see here in the mid lane, Realm Warp is called first. It's so calculated here. Realm Warp into the Moonlight Vigil, grabbing him, gets the kill.
By the way, you had Everfrost again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, well, that seems a bit overtuned.
Yeah. It's a fun item. It's, I think it was also nerfed after a couple of patches.
Yeah, it's seen some changes. Still very strong.
Still very good. It's built on a lot of mid laners. Obviously, not everyone.
But
I feel like it's in a better spot now. But
it gets built. it gets built on the mid laners that teleport in or flank in and look for roots, like Twisted Fate and Rise. Like, it's extremely like
Yeah.
the Everfrost. If you put it on just any mid lane, is like, okay, whatever. You're not going to build that on a Kali, but if you can realm warp from really far away and root somebody, it becomes busted. So, extremely strong, and I mean, this is a very, very even game still, because of the scaling options and the team fighting options and the split pushing that Damwon Kia have, because they're starting to kind of come back online here in this game. Even though they're 3,000 gold behind, what their comp is going to be able to accomplish later on is why they should feel very comfortable as wow.
I like this. The setup for the Devour was perfect from Beryl. It means he might be in some trouble, but he does have the flash. But Liv Sandbox, they're persistent. Still on the chase here. Krako says we can still go, but the turnaround is big as they're going to pick off Krako. Now the TP coming in, Kong trying to set up the kill onto Prince, but he can't quite do it. His effort's there to help him with the body slam, and Prince is still alive, doing so much damage, but now Showmaker finally gets here. And this will mean that Liv Sandbox need to get out of here, but Summit, no hope for him.
This is a huge
follows
turning point.
up right on time.
This is a huge turning point. This is actually where Damwon Kia are going to make a big, big play. And like, it's... I mean, now taking Baron is not out of the question. They're actually going to teleport here and commit to it because they have that advantage right now. Liv Sandbox are going to lose a ton of control over this game, and this teleport in here is so desperate right now because you're outnumbered here as Liv Sandbox. You've got a Twisted Fate and a Gragas. No one else can even be nearby.
3 guys on the Baron. You see that Everfrost not going to come in. Low health bars here for Damwon, but they still believe they can do it. They have the smite, and they will pick it off, and now Barrel's here right on time. And this is what happens when you try to contest 2v4 and you have no smite.
You have no smite. I mean, this is not realistic. Oh, Krako is going to have to wait for that cooldown. I don't think he's going to get it.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that one.
This is a disaster, and this is the kind of thing, like, the people say, oh, well, Wolf says maybe they're going to lose their mentality. It's a potential thing to look out for, but I just don't believe these pro players who have a lot of experience on their belt would ever start to choke in a big series like this, or going into the most important series of their careers, you know, this one in the follow-up playoffs. You know, how does your mentality get affected by KT in a game like this where you had full control? Then this happens. And Krako doesn't have flash to kick, but he still commits forward onto Beryl, and he kills him, and everybody follows him for some reason. It's like, yeah, you can trade that kill onto Beryl, but you've way overextended here. Khan comes in, has the Hextech ultimatum, and there's just no way out here as Liv Sandbox. You've priced yourself into do or die because you're between, you know, a rock and a hard place, realm warp to follow, and then you try to contest Baron because you're like, oh my god, if they get Baron, we lose control of the game, they have better scaling. Like, I understand this decision because if this Baron goes over, that's basically game, like, in considering the compositions. Uh-oh.
Barrel's super tanky now. Liv Sandbox, they're getting desperate. They're looking for any picks that they can get. It's Krako. Yeah, you've got some cool items, but they're not helping you now. Remember, Krako was 4-0. Now he's 4-3.
Summit's getting an inhibitor turret, meanwhile, so that's...
Casually, yeah.
It's a lot of money going over to him that he desperately needs as he tries to finish his Muramana, but at the same time, because he cannot actually get the inhibitor, what Damwon Kia gets is way more valuable, and his presence here, the poke that he could have to maybe set up for an engage, I think would have been better spent here, but either way, Damwon Kia are looking for an inhibitor.
This is Damwon we're talking about. You give them an inch, they're going to take it a mile. Like, look at this gold graph. It was barely 5 minutes ago, and Liv Sandbox were in a good spot, and they were hunting them down 5v3, and this is like, oh, this is in the bag. We have great amounts of pick. We can poke people down, and then they commit 5 people into a funnel, into the enemy jungle, and then they get picked off one by one, and all of a sudden the game turns immediately on its head. 1 Baron away, 3 members of Liv Sandbox run into their deaths on the Baron, and it's...
This is just, I mean...
Yeah, it looks cute, but even if the Q hits, like...
If the Q hits, like, he might almost kill Ghost, but I don't think he kills him. And you're relying on Ghost, like, having tab open or having the shop open, because if he sees that, he dodges it every time. As this is just, I mean, why are you going in here? You have a poke composition to a certain extent. If Jace is here, but he's not, but if he's back and you could just play around your inhibitor turret, you could defend this so much easier, but it's just more gold going over to Damwon Kia. The inhibitor turret lives. But like I was saying, that Baron gives you so much control over the map, and it allows you to freely farm with this comp that's going to scale up so much better. And Liv Sandbox are just grouping to try to trade turrets, and then at the short term, you're going to trade fairly evenly, but in the long term, this gold here isn't going to matter as much as Damwon Kia's gold because their comp is going to do a lot more with it. The Summit, once again, going to get an inhibitor turret, but if he doesn't get the inhibitor, is it worth it?
This is kind of crazy how this is happening. Summit is getting insane amounts of value. It's 2 inhibitor turrets now, so
yeah.
you have a couple of paths into the enemy base now, not just one. And yeah, I mean, we talked about the split push potential of the Ryzen Camille, and it's still there, and it's still scary, but Jace, you know, Summit was never really tested. All of these fights were just Liv Sandbox kind of bashing their head against the wall and failing over and over, but we see the power of, you know, you get a TF over there. There are ways for Liv Sandbox to play this map, and I think Summit's trying to tell his team, like, okay, Croco, don't just run in there again. Let's just calm this one down and
play the map.
We can play this map.
Yeah, play the map, and this is where you don't get the inhibitor either way, but as you mentioned, there are follow-up threats, and because there wasn't a big push for Damwon Kia in this case, you know, last time, you know, when they fought without Summit, it felt a little bit ridiculous. This time, Damwon Kia was kind of already on their way out, so he ends up getting away with it, and there's no trade-off. So, you know, when I asked the question, is it worth if he doesn't get the inhibitor? In this case, absolutely yes, because there was just no sort of trade back on the map for Damwon Kia. But look at these items across the board here for your big 3 carries, right? The Diana, the Ryze, and the Aphelios that we were talking about. Those are the really scary parts of what happens with this gold that Damwon Kia now has. Even though the gold lead isn't that huge, in fact, it's only 300 at the moment, the composition for Liv Sandbox is going to really struggle to team fight. It is going to be able to split push a little bit, but actually going in is getting harder and harder every time.
Yeah. With, you know, I think they had enough of a lead to take team fights, especially before Ryze and Aphelios were really online, but now it's like a whole different story. Like we have flipped into the underground of this game. And we've, you know, it's totally changed sides now. So, you know, a dragon here for Damwon. There's a second Mountain Drake coming up here in 30 seconds. And consider trying to group up for that one and take it down. Hope that Summit or Fate isn't able to split push a lane.
Yeah, the thing is, Mountain Soul is, and all these Mountain Drakes even individually are super important against the Jace poke when you don't have that much follow-up. Oh, that was really scary.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's Liv Sandbox who's ahead in Drakes and not Damwon Kia, it means that you have more time, but your comp doesn't want more time. Like, Liv Sandbox doesn't want this game to go any longer. And now they're just going to start the Baron up, and this is your last chance, Liv Sandbox, to somehow win a miraculous team fight.
Yeah, and Damwon say, come at us. You know, let's go, let's throw down 5v5 right now. Problem is, Damwon took a lot of damage from this Baron, so they do have to back out of here. They can't just group up in the pit and get pummeled by Jace. And so we are going to get into a little bit of a posturing war right now.
None of this poke is hitting, by the way, for Summit, unfortunately. He's just not really connecting with these shock blasts, which is really important for this comp to work. Fate used his Destiny Gate to control that choke point so he could actually prevent the retreat, because he's got his Everfrost online. He can stun anyone who tries to get out of any of the squishies there, trying to avoid those shock blasts. If those start hitting, you can actually commit to the fight. He's going to commit the gold card now. Oh, actually dodged. He wanted to. Oh, it's so difficult to actually execute this as Liv Sandbox. You have threats.
Here we go. Ryze ultimate straight in. They call the bluff. The second they fall out of vision from the mid lane. And do they have the damage is the question. And we got Croco. So. He's got that Q. The stun is going to lock him in, and that's going to be enough. The Baron will come in for the side of Damwon, as the Moonfall isn't fantastic, as they now are able to get in there with the Fate's Call. But look at this, Aphelios Ghost is just going ham now, able to root 3 people with that Gravitum, and that might just be enough as in comes Khan. Summit's never able to do enough. He's trying so hard, him and Fate, but in the 5v5, they are just going to get dominated at this point in the game. The Baron and a huge team fight going to the hands of Damwon.
That commitment into Damwon's jungle was really the first domino to fall. That was a set of dominoes falling apart here for Liv Sandbox, where Damwon Kia are able to get objective after objective map control. The composition comes online, and you could see Liv Sandbox started to choke a little bit. You know, Croco going into that Dragon Pit looking for Ghost. He ends up dying. A lot of small mistakes, a lot of desperation here. And it's not a good look for the beginning of this best of 3, and it's not a great look heading into playoffs. We'll see if they can shore it up after this first game, but Damwon Kia with a very dominant mid to late game.
Yep. All I got to do is hit the Nexus. They're not going to make any mistake about that.